Okay, great. So hopefully everyone can see my screen okay. Thank you for joining this webinar today. As I mentioned, it's been our most successful in terms of sign-ups. We had about 150 people sign up. So thank you for those that have joined. We are recording it, and then we will share the recording via email. We'll also put it out on the Facebook groups afterwards. So if you do have to jump out at any point, then you know there will be a recording available. So I put a post out on the Facebook group a couple of weeks ago saying, look, want to run a webinar, what do you want it to be on? And overwhelmingly, the choice was how to build an SEO strategy. So yeah, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I think I bit off more than I could chew with this because I was going through all the elements of SEO strategy and trying to put together the best webinar, and it was becoming the longest webinar ever. It is way more than 1 hour. So I think we have to spread this into different parts. But I did actually ask on the Facebook group again last week, what do you want most help with? And most people said keyword research. So most of this presentation will be around keyword research. So hopefully this is the most valuable thing that we can give you guys right now. So yeah, let's run through this. It's going to be recorded. Nadia's on the chat. So if you have any questions, feel free to post them in there. But we're going to have a Q&A section at the end. So if you do post any questions, I can answer them at the very end. Or if you have anything else, just wait till the end. But probably best just to get them in the chat for now, and then we can run through the questions at the end, because I'm sure you guys will have loads of questions, right? As much as we can build into this presentation, there's so many edge cases, right? So you'll probably have something that I have not covered that you really want to know the answer to. So please just drop it in the chat and I can answer it towards the end. Okay. So, okay, let's get started. So building an SEO strategy. So before we jump into what it is, why it's important, well, we've got why it's important, but let's talk about the why, the when, and how often. Okay, so why? Why build an SEO strategy? As I mentioned there, it dictates everything you do. So it's the same as building a strategy for any form of marketing that you do, right? You need to understand what it is you want to achieve before you start actually making any changes, because those changes are built on what you want to go for. And what you assume you might want to go for might be different once you actually start building out the strategy. So keyword research, you might think particular keywords are the best keywords to go for, but as you do that keyword research, you might find some other phrases that are actually better. So that's why you want to do it. When? You want to do it immediately, right? And if you're starting SEO, now a lot of people who join today haven't just started SEO, they've been doing it for a while, but you'll want to do it as soon as you start SEO for your website, your client's website, whatever it may be, you want to do it immediately. And then how often, it depends on the industry, you know, particular evergreen industries, you know, where things don't particularly change too much. Plumbing, for example, it doesn't hugely change in terms of the keywords you're targeting. Not as often, but I'd say on average around 3 to 6 months, you want to review. It's not rebuilding the SEO strategy, but it's reviewing the keywords, reviewing your content topic, reviewing your competitors. You know, it's good practice to do that. And then here's a little side note here. If you feel that if what I've touched upon there and you're going, actually, yeah, I do need a strategy refresh for my website, then keep on watching to the end, because we are actually going to run a special offer on this. So I won't talk about this now until the end, but yeah, hopefully that's piqued your interest. Okay, so the first thing you want to do when building a strategy is you really need to define your business. And as I mentioned here, there's 2 categories that we care about. There's the website type, and then there's the locations that the business operates within, right? So the type of business or type of website, and then what customers do you serve? You know, geographically, where are they located? Okay, so the 3 roughly boiled down website types or business types or website types to 3 categories. First, you've got like business focus. So this is like your typical, your service or product focused website, right? So if you're an accountant, a plumber, you provide a service to customers within a particular geographical region, then we probably class you under the business website. It doesn't really matter. The word business doesn't matter. It's just, you know, you're in that category. Next, e-commerce. We all know this. This is selling products online. So this might be selling physical products. You might put courses in there as well, like online courses, but essentially where someone can transact on your website and you're selling a good, you know, whether it be a physical good or a digital good. And then you get content-based websites. These are the least popular, especially in terms of our audience, right? You know, you're gonna get many small businesses that run a content website. So this would be like your media-based websites, news websites, you know, just blogs, gossip websites, that type of website would fall under content. It's not e-commerce, it's not business, it kind of has its own category. So first thing you want to do is you want to identify, okay, which are we there? Are we business, e-commerce, or are we content? Now you want to think about the 3 location types. Break it down to local, national, and international. So a local location type would be a business who provides their products or services to customers within specific locations or within a particular geographical regions, or maybe a radius patch. They only serve customers up to 50 miles from where they're based, right? So a lot of local service-based businesses fall there. Next, national. So this is where you provide your services or your products to customers in a particular country, so nationwide. Now, you do get service-based businesses that do this, right? So accountants, plumbers, restaurants, just like you get local. There's less of them, right? Most small businesses only operate regionally, but yeah, you get national in terms of those as well. And then international. So if you provide your service or products to customers in multiple countries. So one example is Hike. We have customers all over the world, essentially. So our location type is international. Okay, so let's talk about now. You've defined your business, you've defined your location, right? What are the key elements to building an SEO strategy? So first, keyword research. Defining those keywords and discovering those keywords that your customers are searching for to find products and services just like yours. The website structure. Okay, so you found those keywords, you know what the best phrases are that you want to go for. How can you accommodate those on your website structure? How best to optimize your website? How best to lay out your pages in order to be able to optimize as many, if not all of those keywords. Sometimes it's not possible to optimize all of those keywords, right? But as many as possible, how can you structure your website and your landing page? Competitors, right? If you're building a strategy, one of the best things you can do is to review competitors so that it can then help you with your keyword research, your website structure, everything you want to do. So it's really a means to an end looking at competitors. It's analyzing their data to see then how you can incorporate key learnings into your strategy. Because sometimes you can find some absolute gold from reviewing competitors that you just can't come up with yourself almost. So yeah, really, really important. Creating SEO content. So what content you need to create, how you're going to optimize that, all part of your SEO strategy. And then backlinks. So a huge, huge topic, right? As we all know, still so important for SEO. When you're starting off SEO, you want to have some form of strategy for backlink acquisition. Otherwise, you're just shooting in the wind when it comes to like, oh, I need to build some backlinks. How am I going to do it? If you can have some kind of strategy in place where you've reviewed, you've looked at your top competitors, you've looked at your industry and you've gone, okay, how can we best get backlinks? Do that at the beginning. Also, what's really important is it ties into the competitors. How important are backlinks going to be, right? If your DA, trust low, domain authority, whatever metric you want to use, is significantly down on your competitors, then it has to form a bigger part of your strategy. But if you're there or thereabouts, or even got a better, backlink profile than your competitors, then it doesn't really, that part of the strategy, it doesn't have to be a huge part of your strategy. So yeah, that's kind of what I'd say the final bit. So today, what we're really going to focus on is number 1, keyword research. Maybe a little bit of 2, but yeah, that's why I think this is going to have to be a bit of a series, let's say, of webinars. I definitely tried to do too much thinking I could do this all in one webinar, and it just wouldn't be very good if I tried to do it all in one. Okay, so keyword research is what I'm going to focus on today. I'm going to go through quite a lot of different bits, but hopefully you guys will find this helpful in terms of thinking about how you structure your keyword research for the website that you're trying to optimize. So one of the first things to think about is the purchase funnel. So it's how do your customers get from the point at which they understand they have a problem to understanding exactly what that solution is and then searching for that. And that purchase funnel is obviously very important because it dictates then what people search when they go to Google. People, think about the last major purchase you made. You probably did something very similar without even realizing. I read a stat the other day that the average person spends about 12 minutes a day on Google. Which is just, crazy amount of searches you think you're doing in 12 minutes, right? So at the top of the funnel, that's kind of the awareness stage. People they're searching questions or they're doing a generic search. Then once they've got a bit more information, they go down that funnel. They understand what they need a little bit more. So then they'll go back to Google. They'll do more of a kind of category search, a search around phrases based around the category of the product they think they know that they need. Then they'll do a bit more research. They'll read a bit more. Then they'll know exactly what it is that they want. They'll go back to Google and they'll do a search for that product, service, whatever it may be, right? So at the top of the funnel, that's where you get the most amount of people, right? The most amount of searches. Your typical questions will get so many searches per month, but the actual conversion rate, if someone lands on your website from doing a search at the top of the funnel, it's going to be really low because that searcher doesn't even know what they want just yet. They're really doing it in the research phase. However, if you're appearing for searches that are relevant at the bottom of the funnel, then there's going to be, okay, you're going to get less searches, less clicks through to your website, but the conversion rate is going to be so much higher, right? They know exactly what it is that they want. They've landed on your website. Then they're really only looking to tick off a few things. Is the price all right? Does this website look trustworthy? All of those sorts of factors come into their decision at that point, but you're going to get more conversions. And typically for small businesses, like all of us guys, right? People ask, where should they focus their time? You focus your time really at the bottom of that funnel. Okay, you're not going to get as many clicks to your website, but those type of phrases at the bottom, less searches per month is typically a good proxy for understanding competition. The bigger the phrase, the more websites that want to rank for it. And also the more websites that are relevant to that phrase. The smaller the phrase, the more specific the phrase, the less competition you're going to have and the higher the conversion. So if you really want to impact your bottom line, and not so much vanity metrics like traffic, but actually sales and conversions, then focus on the bottom of that funnel. That's kind of where we would advise. Okay, so let's give an example. We've got two examples, one for e-commerce and one for local. Okay, so imagine buying a TV. This might be the funnel. So just to put it into practice, really. At the top, if I figure I want a TV, I might go to Google and search best TVs for sale. Then I read a few articles, look at a few websites, and I go, actually, I want a UHD TV. I go back to Google, I search UHD TVs. I go, I like these, but actually Samsung's my favorite. I go back to Google, or I perhaps move to a category on their website and I want Samsung UHD. Then I find the exact TV that I want. Hits all the specs within the right price range, perfect. I might buy it from that store, but likely I'm going to go back to Google and try and find the best price. So product-based searches like that, low amount of searches, very, very high conversion because someone's at the point at which they want to buy. Now let's do an example for local. Because again, it applies just as much for local companies as well. And the majority of our customers are really in this local category. So top of the funnel, right? I'm at home, my boiler's stopped working. What do? So I go to Google and I'm like, right, why is my boiler stopped working? I'm trying to figure out what the problem is first. I read a few articles, I realize can't do this myself. So I go back to Google and I realize I need boiler repair. So I search boiler repair. I find that the results are very, very mixed. You've got companies all over the country. I'm based in London, so I need to refine my search even more. I go back to Google, I search for Bosch because that's the manufacturer of my boiler. I need a specific Bosch boiler repair, and I need it where I'm physically based, which is in London. So again, it's that same funnel. And how this then helps me in terms of SEO is it's going, well, look, I want to go for these phrases at the bottom. So I want to do my keyword research around that. And I might want to go for those more category-based searches about like boiler repair as well. But if I understand that journey, then I can understand where my opportunities are from an SEO point of view. This is one of the questions we get asked a lot. And it's a really good question. So if you're doing local SEO, like we go back here, right? Bosch boiler repair London. Now, if you're doing your keyword research in Hike and you want to add keywords that the Hike platform then will help you to optimize and then track your rankings for, etc., you want to add in the very best keywords. A lot of our customers are like, well, do I need to add Bosch boiler repair London, or should I do just Bosch boiler repair, right? So the example I've got here is, should I add just plumber, or should I add plumber London? So when you're in the keyword research tool, you add in the keyword, you add it to the basket. Which one should you be adding, plumber or plumber London, right? Now, like a lot of things in SEO, the answer I always give is just check on Google. It's how much you can find out just by doing a quick search in Google can be really helpful, right? So I'm going to see if this works. Okay, right, let's go to google.co.uk. Okay, you can see my screen. Okay, perfect. So if I'm looking for a plumber, right? So at the moment, I'm based in a little town called Lutterworth in England. And let's say I want a plumber. So let's say I told Google that I want to rank for this keyword. It's going to help me rank. Problem is, if I search plumber, okay, Google Maps has got local plumbing companies. Perfect. But Google Maps is slightly different when it comes to optimization. That's why we have the whole local section on Hike, because optimizing for this is different to optimizing for all of this, right? But anyway, let's move down. Let's look at the organic listings. So if we go down to the organic listings, are we seeing plumbers local to where I'm based? Plumbers in Lutterworth, right? First one, Wikipedia. So that's national. I'll call it national, content-based national. My Plumber, national brand. Plumbers, Trusted Trader, a national brand. Plumbers in Rugby. So that's one local result, right? So far. Then the next one, a national brand. Next one, a national brand. Next one, a national brand. So the results here, if I wanted to rank, is it worth me trying to rank for, let's say I'm a plumber based locally. Should I try and rank for plumber? Probably not, right? Because it looks like Google's actually only going to show one result out of the 10 on the page that's actually local. The rest, I'm competing against national companies. You know, these big websites who can provide these services nationally. Is it really worth me doing that? Whereas if I search Lutterworth, okay, I've got the same kind of results here, but now all the results are relevant. And I think this is what your customers are going to do as well, right? If I needed a plumber, I'd go to Google search plumber, look at results and go, this isn't giving me plumbers near me. So I'd go back and I'd then search plumber Lutterworth. So in that case then, in answer to the question here, well, can't find it, but you know, should I add into my keyword basket plumber or plumber Lutterworth, or plumber location to make it more general? We'd always recommend plumber location because it's you've gone to Google and you can see that the results you want to be in is in the plumber Lutterworth, not the plumber results, because Google's showing completely different results. Another thing actually whilst I'm here is near me. This is something we get asked a lot as well. Should I add the keyword plumber near me to into my keywords? Because if you've ever searched a near me phrase on Hike, you'll see they have really high search volume. Because everyone searches near me, right? You know, I'm searching plumber near me and I'm looking for results based where I am. But someone could be searching that down in Devon or in New York or in Chicago, but they're looking for plumbers near them. We're not looking for the same companies, right? So should you optimize for near me? Now, typically, as a general rule, no, you shouldn't really optimize for plumber near me, because I'll show you why. If we move down here, okay, you've seen a couple near you. Oh, interesting. So this one is slightly different. We're seeing a few actual near me results. Typically what you'd see, and you have to do the search, and again, this is why we always say go to Google. But what you'll find is whenever you have a plumber near me type phrase, Google sometimes replaces the near me with where you are. So it knows down at the bottom here where your location is, and it almost replaces plumber, the near me part with that location. And if it does that, and do the Google search yourself, if it does that, then really, you don't really want to optimize for plumber near me. You just want to optimize for plumber Lutterworth. However, if you see something like this, where actually it's showing phrases, it's showing companies that have near you, near me, then actually you might want to optimize for it. However, I would probably only do that if you're a national company, right? Because you can see all of these, they're not local to me, they're not Lutterworth based plumbers. These are national companies who might have plumbers near me in their directory, let's say, but Google showed national results. So that's something to think about as well. Okay, right, let's go back to here, present. Okay, let's go back. Try and find where we are. Okay, cool. So hopefully that's answered your guys' questions. If you have any more questions on that though, because this, you know, it can be complicated, put it into the chat. and then I'll answer it towards the end. So yeah, feel free to use that chat to answer questions as we go along. Okay, the next thing to think about with keywords, search intent. So this is thinking about what's the intent of the user when they search for a particular keyword. So if I search for, okay, well, I've got the two categories here, right? Informational and transactional. So let's say I search how to make a cup of coffee. My intent there as the searcher is I'm looking for websites that are going to teach me how to make a cup of coffee. I don't want to see websites that are trying to sell me a cup of coffee. I just want to find out information. So the intent of my query there is to find out information. So that's an informational intent keyword. Transactional intent. So let's say I search into Google, buy Nespresso coffee pods. Now, I don't want a blog post that teaches me how to use an espresso machine. I want e-commerce websites that are going to sell me an espresso coffee pod, so I can find the one with the best price and I can buy, right? So my intent there is to transact. This is fine in those kind of clear-cut examples, like, so I know that if I want to if I want to optimize the Hike website for how to get a website to the top of Google, I know that if someone searches that, they're looking for information. So I probably want to write a blog post or a big long page that talks and teaches the user how to do those bits. If someone searches small business SEO platform, then I know that they want to transact, right? So I can then create a landing page that's got more commercial elements to it. Talks about the price, talks about the benefits of using the platform. It doesn't tell them how to SEO, but it gives them that. So they're kind of clear cut. Where this becomes tricky though is that sometimes what Google thinks is the intent is different to what you might think is the intent. And really in this scenario, it only matters what Google thinks, right? So Google try to understand the intent for every keyword of yours. You then need to make sure that you're matching what Google thinks is the intent. So if Google thinks that keyword is an informational intent, then you're optimizing a page, producing a piece of content that's informational. If Google thinks that keyword is transactional intent, then you need to make sure that you're producing a page, optimizing a piece of content that's transactional, right? So let me give an example here. SEO. This is a really interesting one. I give this as an example all the time because if you go to Google now and you search SEO, what you'll find is results like this on the left, right? Beginner's Guide to SEO. What is SEO? SEO basics, beginner's guide to SEO. So this is an informational keyword. So if I wanted today to get our website to rank for SEO, there's no point me optimizing my homepage. There's no point me optimizing a sales page or a landing page because Google wants to show informational keywords. If you rewind back 10 years ago, the first SEO agency I ever worked for, it was very different back then. If you searched SEO in Google, the results that came up were all agencies, a couple of software, but all agencies, because Google believed the intent for the searcher a decade ago was transactional. It thought that someone was searching SEO because they wanted to transact. And so Google showed agencies. Whereas Google now thinks that when someone searches SEO, they want to find out information. So over that period, it's completely changed in terms of how Google treats the intent of that keyword. And so it's not always obvious. This is why, it's very important that you have an understanding, in your strategy when you're finding these keywords of what the intent is for these. Hike will help you with this. It will tell you if a particular intent is informational. But you'll want to kind of do some research yourself as well, right? Because there'll be so many variations of the phrases in which you want to look for. It's really good to understand what Google's favoring for each of the keywords you're going for. So that's an example of informational keyword. Whereas here we go, if you search SEO agency, you'll see the results are completely different. You've got agency websites and it's their homepage or it's their SEO sales pages, right? Because Google knows that this is a transactional keyword. When someone's searching SEO agency, what they're typically looking for is they're looking for a website where they can transact, where they can purchase SEO services. So if you want to rank for SEO agency, don't write a blog post. That's kind of it. Don't write a blog post. Create a really nice sales page that talks about or optimizing your homepage, whatever page it may be, but talk about your services, what you do, your pricing, case studies, something that's going to help someone to buy your service typically. So yeah, that's one of the things that, really important to understand. Okay, so this is kind of an action that it would be good to go away and do, whether it's yourself or someone in your team, is go to Google and search some of the keywords that you want to rank for, just to get an understanding, right? And have a look. What are the results that Google show? Are they transactional or are they informational? Because then you can then refine, thinking about the next stage of building a strategy on Hike, where you assign those keywords, those landing pages, you can understand whether you need to assign that keyword to a blog post or whether you need to assign it to a product page or your homepage or whatever it may be. One thing that we find a lot is sometimes it's not as clear case as there being. You search for a keyword and there's 10 transactional results and no informational results, or there's 10 informational results and there's no transactional results. What you'll find is typically there might be like an 80-20 split or even a 70-30 split. Sometimes even a 50-50 split. You'll search a particular phrase and there'll be 5 results that are blog posts that talk about that topic. And then there'll be 5 pages which are trying to sell you that phrase, right? Now, use a bit of a judgment call in those cases, scenarios. If it's a 50, if there's a leaning more towards one than the other, then I would go with that way. If Google seems to be showing more informational or more transactional, then go down that route. If it really is split in the middle, take your pick, or do a bit of both, right? Optimize a nice blog post, optimize a page, perhaps push one optimization more than the other, and just test over an amount of time and just see what ranks better. Even if you see movement from page 10 to page 8 for one, and you don't see it for another, then that can sometimes be an indicator that this seems to be resonating better as a landing page for this keyword in the eyes of Google. So yeah, that's kind of what I'd advise from there. So competitors, talked about competitors, why they're important a little bit earlier. One of the important things is to understand who are your competitors. Because often who you think your competitor is before you do SEO, might not be your competitor in the world of SEO. So, I've worked with many clients who, if you ask them, who's your top competitors? They'll be like, oh, it's Bob's shop across the road, or it's Carol's garage down the road, whatever it may be. Because in the real world, the physical world, they indeed might be their competitors. But SEO is completely different, right? Anyone can optimize a website, anyone can essentially rank. So who a business's competitors are might be completely different in the SEO world to in the physical world, the outside world. So how you find your competitors? Very simply, search your keywords, and those that rank really well are those that are your competitors. But there's another level. Really, the ones that are your competitors are the ones which are like for like, and they're perhaps transactional. Or it depends. If you're an informational website, then it'll be the informational results. If you're a transactional website, like e-commerce, or you sell, particular services, then it'll be the ones that kind of match your intent. So one example might be, for example, if you try to rank for, SEO software, for example, if you search SEO software, you might get some really big names on there, like Mars, SEMrush example, but then you might get some review websites. Now, those review websites aren't really our a like-for-like competitor. They're not trying to sell, they're trying to refer, they're affiliates, right? So if I want to analyze a website to help me get more information to influence my SEO strategy, then I don't really want to look at those review websites like G2 or someone like that. I want to be looking at the SEMrushes, the Mozes, because they're like for like. They're trying to do what we're trying to do, which is sell a product to a customer. So it's all about, I always recommend when you're doing competitor research and you're trying to gain insights from competitors to look at what keywords, what backlinks, what content, what landing pages, all ideas that you can build into your strategy, use like for like competitors. They're going to give you the most information, even if they're not always the best performing websites. Website 1 and 2 for your top keyword might be Amazon. It likely probably is, right? It might be Amazon who are ranking. Yes, okay, they're your competitor because they're ranking number 1. Are you going to outrank them? Probably not. Are they like for like? Definitely not. I don't think that we've got any customers on Hike who sell the vast. I don't think there's any websites that sell as much as Amazon, right? So they're not a like-for-like competitor. But if there's a website in position 4, position 5, position 6, who are on that first page, and actually they're really similar to you, they provide the same products and services that you do, they're like for like, they're the competitors that you want to be adding into Hike. They're the competitors you want to be analyzing, because it's those guys that you're going to get all the information. You're going to get the best information that you can use to impact your strategy. So they're the ones that are going to give you the best keyword ideas. They're the ones that can give you the best backlink ideas. Okay, right. So how to start with your keyword research. We've gone through all the steps so far, right? You've learned a bit more information. Here's just kind of a 4-step process to getting started with building out your keywords, or just refining your keywords, right? Make a list. Number 1, products and services. Just make a list. I always say this, just make a list of every product and service that you offer to customers, and every different way in which those products or services can be phrased by your customers, right? So for example, for us guys, SEO platform, we're an SEO software, right? But people call it SEO platform, SEO tool, SEO software. You know, there's variations of it. Next, jump into Hike, right? Search these phrases in the keyword research tool to try and find as many variations as possible. On the next slide, I'm going to talk to you about my favorite way of doing this. 3, adding in competitors, add in like-for-like competitors. 4, top of funnel research. Use the content topic tool to find those phrases at the top. Long-term strategy, right? Like I mentioned before, you're going to get more results from the bottom of the funnel, especially at the beginning, but you do want to be thinking about top of the funnel. All right, this kind of cycle, diagram, flow, whatever you want to call it, is how I recommend people use Hike for keyword research. We build a lot of strategies for clients. People use Hike, they'll use our team, we'll build out their entire strategy. We'll do all the keyword research, landing page, assignment, find basically all the stuff within what we're talking about. We do this for clients. We do it all the time. And we've really defined how we use the platform to get the most amount of value from it. So when we're doing keyword research for our clients, there's a particular method that I like to use to get the most out of that keyword research feature on Hike. And it kind of works like this, and it's cyclical. You do it over and over again. You refine your data and get better and better results. So first you add a seed phrase. So that's, going into the keyword research tool, let's say starting from scratch, and you add a phrase at the top. So I might put in SEO software search. And then what Hike does, right, is it comes back with recommended alternatives, other keywords, and then the metrics as well. So what I'll do is I'll go through, I'll find all the ones that are most relevant to, I'll use Hike as an example, find the ones that are most relevant to Hike. I add them to the basket and I press save. What happens now is Hike goes away and it checks the rankings for all of those keywords. Then what Hike does in the competitor section is it looks for the websites that rank the most over that keyword set. So it will find the like-for-like websites that appear most across all of those keywords. So I've added the seed phrase, I've saved the best ones to the basket and press save. Once the rankings have run, then I go and I find those competitors and I add them into the competitor tool in Hike. Because what Hike will do then is it will grab all the keywords they rank for and save them. Then I go back to the keyword research tool and I use the search box. So the search box on the left is like the secret weapon, I think, for the keyword research tool. You use the search box and you do your keyword research from there. Because now it's got more information. It's got all of the seed keywords that you had, plus competitors' keywords. So I search in there, and I'll show you in a second. That brings more results. I find the best keywords from there, and I add them back as a seed phrase. I add them as seed phrases. I then find all the best keywords, save them to basket, press save, and then I go back to the competition section, and I've got even better competitors that are now even more refined to the keywords that I want, because I've added even better keywords. Then I go back over to the keyword research tool, and then I find the best keywords, and I do this process. And if you do it once, twice, 3 times might be a bit much, but if you do it once or twice, you're essentially, what you're doing is you're using Hike to get the most amount of data so that it can recommend the most amount of keywords. So let me see if I can show you this in real life. Let's go over to here. Make sure I can see. Okay, cool. Nadia, can the guys see, can you go onto the webinar for me, please? Make sure they can see.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, thank you. Close up. Cheers. Okay, right. So let me show you this in action, right? Go to the keyword ideas. So the first thing you do is you add in a seed keyword in here, and then you click get suggestions. So for example, for the search SEO tools, it brings back all of these phrases. I'll go through and I'll find the ones I like and I'll click the plus button. It adds it into my chosen keyword list and I press save. Then what happens is Hike will then go away and have a look at the keyword rank. Oh, sorry, if I go to the competition, is it tracks all of those keywords. And then if you go to click add competitor, here, it will show you who your top keywords are across that keyword set. And then find the like for like competitors. So G2 wouldn't be, but Ahrefs would be. Click the plus button. Let that add it as a competitor. So then Hike pulls in all the keywords for them. Then once that's run, I go back to the keyword ideas tool. And if I click on the competitor keywords, I'll then have loads of data. And what I can do now is I can search in here. So now if I search tool, I'm going to get all of the keywords that mention tools from my seed keyword, but also keywords that mention tool from my competitors' keywords. So I'm like, okay, so SEO tool audit, that's quite nice, 320 searches per month. That phrase wasn't brought back from Hike if I just searched SEO tools. It's an additional phrase. So let's say, sorry, let me go back there, clear filters, tool, so then SEO audit tool, I then search that back in there. Now I've got even more keyword ideas from that. Then I add more keywords to the basket, press save, go back to the competitors, save some more like for like competitors, come back here and use this feature here. Do that a few times. And what you're doing is you're essentially in this feature, you're building up a huge pot of keywords that you can then use this search feature on the left to refine through and find the very best keywords. Works really well for us. Hopefully it works really well for you guys as well. Okay, now let's present quickly. Okay, so it's 20 minutes to go. If I can push through and get this done in 10 minutes, so we can have around 10 minutes for questions and answers at the end. Okay, so yeah, so we talked about that kind of diagram flow in terms of how to get the most from the Hike platform in terms of keyword research. Okay, so another thing just to think about, I said we'd touch upon is you've got your keywords. How do you assign them to the right pages on the website so that you know that you're going to be optimizing the very best page that can have the best opportunity to rank for that? So looking back at the funnels that we talked about earlier, you see here, here's the ECOMM funnel for the flow of buying a TV, right? And on the right, we've got where those keywords should be optimized. Now we do that by looking at going to Google, searching those keywords and looking at the intent. Is it informational intent? Is it transactional intent? So if you search best TVs for sale in Google, you'll see that all the results are pretty much review-based websites. So if I want to optimize for that on my e-commerce website, I'm best off doing a blog post. Although caveat here, it's going to be a lot of energy to try and rank the best TVs for sale. So you might, being pragmatic, go, I'm not going to put too much energy into this because I really want to rank for these phrases. This is going to move the needle for my business. Now, UHD TVs, that's kind of the next step. I might create a first level category on my e-com site that's UHD TVs. Samsung UHD TVs, I might go then as a second level category, have brands underneath UHD. So I've got UHD Sony, UHD Samsung, UHD LG, for example, and I can then optimize for these phrases. And then here at the bottom, I can optimize that on a product page. But let's look at local, because local is a little bit different, right? So again, you've got your top of the funnel where it's more informational. Then you've got, as you move down to your category search, you might do that on a boiler repair page. You look at the results, see what kind of results are through and go, okay, well, if I want to optimize it, I've got to do it on a transactional page like boiler repair. But then moving down, I've got Bosch Boiler Repair Texas. Where do I optimize this? Right, I've got a boiler repair page. Should I optimize it there? But here's the kind of the big question. What if you serve multiple locations? What if you don't just do Texas? Oh, this is going to show up my lack of geography knowledge. But let's say you do Texas and New York. I don't know what company would do Texas. Let's say you do Texas and New York, right? Then how do you optimize it? You can't put it on your boiler repair. It might need its own dedicated page. So how do you get around this? So local SEO is a little bit different if you serve in multiple locations, right? So a couple of general rules of thumb. Optimize a page for a maximum of 2 keywords and 2 close locations. By close locations, I mean geographically close, in close proximity to each other. So you wouldn't do Texas and New York on the same page because they're very far away from each other. So you wouldn't be relevant to optimize them, on the same page. But you might do 2 keywords, for example. It might be plumber and plumbing services, but they have to be very, very closely related. So yes, as a general rule of thumb, optimize 2 keywords, e.g. 2 services, or 2 variations of words on a single service, and 2 close locations per page. As another general rule of thumb, if it's a large town, city, or state, aim for 2 keywords on 1 location per page. So if it is a city like Texas or New York or wherever it might be, or a state, for example, you won't want to add a couple of locations, right? Because you're never going to rank for 2 on the same page, because you're going to be up against competition who are only optimizing for 1 location. And if they've only got 1 location, then their page is going to be more relevant to that 1 location because the content's going to be more specific. So considerations to think about. You can have 2 locations per page, but make sure, like I say, they're in very, very close proximity. So locally, for example, there might be two towns, Lutterworth and Rugby, which is based in the UK, over here in England. So I might put those if they're close in proximity. It saves me having to create 2 pages, right? It saves me having to create a location page for Lutterworth and another location page for Rugby, because the more pages you have to create, it's just more work, right? It's twice the amount of content, twice the amount of images you've got to create, twice the amount of resource. Next consideration, you can have 2 services per page or keywords, but make sure they're closely related. So if I did toilet repair plus boiler installation, they're not closely related, right? Yes, they fall under perhaps, my company, my business, I do both, they're perhaps both under plumbing, but they're not very closely related services. So yes, I can optimize 2 keywords on a page, 2 services, but I wouldn't want to optimize them 2 on the same page, because, thinking about it, that means that page, I'd have to write content about toilet repair and content about boiler repair. And it doesn't really make any sense, right? The user will be really confused if it reads one of them, toilet repair, when it's looking for boiler repair, or vice versa. Final one, unsure, check Google. So this, again, it's such a good tool that we all have at our disposal, right? Can we optimize those 2 locations on the same page? Can we optimize those 2 keywords on the same page? Have a look in Google. So I'm going to escape quickly and go back over here. So let's say I search plumber London. Right. Now, look at the results. Let's say I'm thinking about optimizing for plumber and central heating on the same page. An example. Now, what I'd want to do is I'd want to look and go, okay, how many results on here talk about plumbing and then talk about central heating? So we're talking about my plumber and heating. Okay, a little bit. And then you've got Pimlico, plumbers. Then I've got London plumbers. So no one here is talking about central heating installation. Now, if I search central heating London, are the results different? Okay, yeah. And you can see here, the results are completely different. So if I was thinking, can I put these 2 keywords on the same page? You'd have to say no, because Google's showing completely different results, which means it treats it as 2 keywords, which means the best thing you can do is create 2 separate pages to optimize those keywords on. That's the best thing you could do from an SEO point of view. And it's the same for locations. If I was trying to do London and Brighton, for example, I'd search London and see if any of the results also mention Brighton. If they do, fantastic. I can put both of them. I can optimize both of them on the same page, thereby reducing the amount of work. If not, then I'm probably going to have to create 2 separate pages. So yeah, just something there that should help. Now let's go back to this. Okay, cool. So special offer for October. Strategy, obviously, really, really important. You want to get your strategy set ready, proper, ready for the new year, ready for a push in Q4. This is a service that we offer, right? It's a 5-hour task where our guys will go in and they'll completely build your SEO strategy or revamp your SEO strategy. We'll do all of your keyword research. We'll do the whole process that I talked through. We'll look at where to optimize those pages. Where's best? Is it existing page on your website or is it a new page on your website? We'll look at backlink strategy. We'll build out a content roadmap for you. We'll look at your GMB listing and look at what's your immediate opportunities. We essentially build out the entire strategy in hikes, and all you need to do is then just follow the actions. It's something that's very, very popular, and we're running an offer throughout October. So it's usually a one-off fee, right, of $325 or £250. It's 20% off, so it's going to be, for this month only, it's $260 one-off fee or £200. We'll build up, if you want to go ahead, drop us an email afterwards. I'll send this out tomorrow, but you can get started today if you want. We'll ask you some questions. We'll get started on it, let you know when we do it. And then we'll have a phone call at the end where we'll talk you through everything that we've done. So you'll have a one-on-one phone call with one of our team, and they'll talk through the whole strategy they've built and why they've built it and what your next steps are. So yeah, just wanted to touch on that. So if you want to get started, I'll send out this webinar tomorrow and I have more instructions. But if you want to drop us an email tonight, that's absolutely fine. support@hikeseo.co or Andy@hikeseo or Nadia, whoever it may be. So 10 minutes left. I've managed to do it in 50 minutes. Let's go through questions.
Got a couple of questions in there. I might as well join.
Yeah, join. If you can hear Nadia.
Yes.
My throat is pretty dry, so
Is it?
very much so.
Talking too much.
Talking too much, always.
One of the questions was from Pat around how important is it to make sure that your H1 and your title tag are using the exact same keywords? Or is it important?
Yeah, that's a really good question. How to answer this one? So your page title and your H1 are very powerful tools when it comes to optimizing page, or essentially telling Google what that page is all about. That's all it is, right? You're just telling Google what the content of that page is about. And it's like a heading on a newspaper article. Heading on a newspaper article tells you, or should tell you, and it's clickbait, what the content of that article is, right? So if you mention your keywords within the H1, you mention it within the page title, you're affirming to Google, hey, my content is about plumbing services. My content is about Nike trainers, whatever it may be. So getting your keyword in there, you can have them exact match. You could have your page title mention your keyword. You could have your H1 mention your keyword exactly. That's absolutely fine. You could potentially use your page title to mention a keyword, use your H1 to mention it, mention a synonym, maybe like plumbers in your page title, then plumbing services, which is a synonym, for example, in your, so plumber services and plumbing services in your H1. But there's no real harm in duplicating your keyword across both of them. One thing that happened in Google, one thing they released last month, they rolled out a bit of an update. There was a lot of news about it where Google actually started, in some cases, using the H1 as what they showed as the page title in the Google search results. So if you go into Google search results, right, each listing has the heading at the top, the blue text, which traditionally has always been the page title. That's why it's so important to get your keyword in there. What Google were testing, and it looks like they've rolled it out. We'll have to see what the news is. But they're actually replacing the page title with the H1 in times where they thought the H1 was more relevant. So it just shows how important the H1 can be. So you want to get your main keyword in your H1 as well, because if it's going to replace your page title with your H1, and you always want to get your main keyword in that blue link at the top of your search result, then you really want to be getting your keyword in your H1 as well. But yeah, I think try and use it in both. Use a synonym if not, but don't radically change them.
Cool, awesome. I'll answer the question, but I'm going to read it out as well, just in case you want to add anything to it.
Sure.
Another question was by Joe, asking essentially, what would we recommend for the amount of words on a blog post or local service page? He has heard is between 300 all the way up to 2,500.
Yeah.
In my response, I actually didn't cover the blog post, but I did answer regarding more around the service pages, because I feel like that's where people do get a lot of confusion around. So I said we usually aim between 400 to 500 at least per page. Mm-hmm. There isn't kind of like a rule as such, because Google can rank pages that have at least 1,000 words or even a lot less content. So it kind of depends. Mm-hmm. But we usually go to 500 to 500 at least, because it's a kind of sweet spot to mention all of the information, all of the important keywords.
Yeah, as a general rule of thumb, if you can get up to 500, great. If it's less, then and you can get all the information in, then that's
Yeah.
fine. You know, 250 words used to work really well. That was a kind of general rule of thumb. So you've had 300, I think that's fine. 250, 300 to 500. Just have a quick look at those that are already ranking. And this is probably more relevant for blog posts as well, right?
Yeah.
If there's a particular keyword you want to rank for, look at the top 10 results. And look, if there's a blog post and every single one of the blog posts that's ranking on the first page are those mammoth 5,000 word blog posts, you know, every single one of them, then you write a 500 word blog post, you're probably not going to rank right, because you're not creating enough content to mention all the different types of keywords that Google is looking for to be on that page, to be on the first page of Google. However, if it's the other way around and, you know, all the blog posts are 500, do you need to write 5,000? No, you don't. You probably just want to be slightly above. So blog posts, I'd always aim for the average. Service page is probably a similar story, but you don't always have to. I'd say as a general rule of thumb, 300 to 500 words is a nice kind of area to aim for.
Cool, that's good. And there was a follow-up question on the answer that you gave around the H1 headings and the title tags. So the question is, based on your answer to Pat's question, if you have 2 keywords ranking for a single page, is it a good idea then to put one in the H1 and the other in your page title? Good question.
Yeah, it's a good question. I probably wouldn't know. So if Google's going to choose between your page title or your H1 to show in its search results, then you'll want to have your keywords in your page title and your H1. Because if it chooses one over the other, so it chooses the page title, you want to make sure you've got both keywords in there. If it chooses the H1, you probably want to make sure you've got both keywords or a variation of those both keywords within there. So I probably would still aim to get those 2 keywords in each one of those elements.
Cool. Do reviews impact search rankings? Love the amount of questions we have.
Yeah, do reviews impact search rankings? Yes, great question. There's never really been, the thing with SEO is it's very much based on correlation and not causation. So you get loads and loads of studies, which are fantastic. You know, I've done many of them in the past myself. And what they do is they try to reverse engineer, right? They'll look at the ranking websites and they'll look at things that correlate across them, rather than going, okay, here's one website, all things being equal, will increase the amount of reviews. The reason that it's very hard to show causation for something like that is because there's so many moving parts of SEO. You try and control for one variable, it's practically impossible. So that's really hard. But in correlation studies, what you'll see is that as a general trend, reviews can impact your search rankings. So yes, especially, and with more so, it would be your Google Maps, right? So the 3-pack or on the Google Maps, as opposed to the organic listings. So if your Google My Business has got more reviews, everything else being equal, you should rank better than them. But if you go and look at any search plumber London, plumber New York, you'll see that the number of reviews doesn't always correlate to who ranks 1, 2, and 3, for example, because there's so many other things that impact SEO. You know, you might have more reviews than your competitor, but they might have more backlinks. And so that's why they're outranking you. And that's why it's so hard to control for stuff like this. But there's lots of correlation studies that say that, yes, as a general rule, businesses with more Google My Business reviews, and that's probably something important to note, Google, it seems to correlate more with Google My Business reviews, because obviously Google have access to that data. They seem to rank better than businesses who have less Google My Business reviews. So roundabout way of answering your question there, Joe.
Yeah, that's it.
Cool. Okay. Well, yeah, thanks everyone. I hope you really enjoyed this. We'll stop the recording, get it sent out tomorrow via email, and also put it on the groups. If you want to get started with the strategy creation process, it'll be in the email tomorrow. We'd love to, whether you're starting off from scratch or whether you just want to give it a refresh, then we'd love to help with that as well. So thanks everyone. Have a great rest of your day.